taking action for you this morning on TV 20 Detroit starts right now.
What's happening in entertainment? From Tinseltown to the Big Apple, this is your weekly entertainment magazine with Greg Dunmore of PULSEBEAT.tv.
Pulse of a new generation, PULSEBEAT.tv.
Hi, you're watching PulseBeat with Greg Dunmore, and on this edition, we're going to talk to individuals who embrace the power of love. We cover arts, entertainment, and culture. I'm standing in front of the Hebrew Memorial Chapel, where we celebrated the life of Samantha Wall, who unfortunately was taken from this earthly place.
Samantha was just an incredible woman, did so much in her short life. Everyone spoke so similarly. Powerful woman. Why we had to lose her, who knows? May God shed his compassion and his love upon all of us.
If she was yet alive to speak, she would have been very empathetic towards the Palestinian cause. And that she was definitely a helper, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, she helped me in certain situations, and definitely, like, her heart was pure. Like, I'm a member of the Hebrew faith, which is like Kol Yisrael. I'm in the community of Israel. So whatever the cultural host is, whether it's European, Middle Eastern, African, or wherever else it may be, you know, it's a set of rules and ethics that supersede any cultural significance. I did a minor in modern Israeli Hebrew and successfully completed that. So I'm aspiring and working towards full credentials in journalism. For one thing, growing up in Detroit, like, I grew up simultaneously with the Arab community, and in my particular background, it's not unusual for people of Arab cultural descent to be identified as Jews too. Whether you choose whatever your religion is, whether it be Islam or Judaism, really is irrelevant, you know. And I just think that people that's in the know kind of understand that more so than people looking outward, because like business people in per se, I'm just using them, like that community, as an example. Like, I know people on both spectrums, and in the realm of business and commerce, like, a lot of those prejudices dissipate, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, people is interested in good relations, products and services, you know, and then from that point, then people actually get to know each other in a real way.
Coming from somebody who grew up in Dearborn, my parents owned a gas station in Detroit and then a furniture store in Highland Park. And I just grew up with such a diverse number of people that have been exposed to me. And so, again, I drive this idea of hope and empathy that I lead with from my experience of being able to step into unknown territories and trying to truly understand the differences that exist within people.
I do spoken word. You know, when I find myself in grief, I write a lot. And I did a piece the other day that kind of went mini viral on Instagram, and I started it by introducing myself as a freedom fighter and an activist. I'm also a human. I'm a human Palestinian Arab. I'm a human Palestinian Arab American. I'm a human Palestinian Christian Arab American. And in that order, because it's important to understand here that whenever we face atrocities in our world, we are quick to find our differences that divide us to justify the evil that seems the most powerful. And I want to let it be known that I don't stand before people as an activist because I believe it is my duty to fight against the genocide unfolding in Palestine because I am Palestinian. See, I believe it is my duty to actively speak out against the Israeli apartheid state because I believe in any human's right to self-determination and freedom. In that order, I am human, Palestinian, Christian, Arab. See, often as people, we lose sight of our humanness first during times where the evil in the world sets on a warpath to divide us. I am a human Palestinian Christian, and I see it as my duty to fight the war on information driven by Israeli Western media campaigns that portray what is happening in Palestine in ways that add fuel to their fire toward Islamophobia and anti-Arab rhetoric and hate. They dehumanize us. They portray us as animals. I am a human Palestinian, and you see, when it comes to my people, our ears have heard bombs. We've seen tears from our eyes of our dying loved ones and from our loved ones watching our very own die. You've seen screams louder than the loudest bombs, but see, we've seen our screams have fallen on deaf ears. I am human. And for that simple fact, I will not spend this time saying things to you that only one's ears can hear and eyes can see, to understand the pain and the suffering of our people has been heard and has been seen loud and clear. Now you choose, are you human? Because Palestine needs you here.
There must be another way. There must be another way. There must be another way.
Brenda, we're in trying times now, and as we said, that word that you embrace and you define, and it's part of your passion, L-O-V-E, love. You have a saying that I think is so important, especially in this state of world crisis.
We actually were calling it hate to hope, but it's hurt, hate. It's that combination of being hurt and which blossoms and becomes hate. So the hurt becomes the hate. We see so many wounded people today, and it's at all ages, not just children, not just adults. And several years ago, I did a project. I was very concerned, as I still am today, about bringing a better understanding. And that project was called From Hate to Hope. We were able to change attitudes by bringing the children together with the police and having interactive experiences with them at the police station. They got to know them. They got to have lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them. And it just changed everything. Then the group of the 20 kids from Roseville High School put on the website, they wanted everyone to know what to do if you're stopped by a police car. I truly believe we are all connected. And I think nothing can change until we really feel comfortable and we have the tools to be able to have the honest conversations. The thought of going and killing someone that you don't agree with, I mean, I can't even imagine where that comes from, but we're seeing so much of that, especially in the last 10 days.
Now, your background is very fascinating. As a child, you came from a very creative family. Let us know the background and the wonderful parents that were so instrumental in why you are who you are today.
Well, that's why my book is called Charmed, because I have led a charmed life. How lucky was I to have two handsome and beautiful parents who encouraged me every day and made their dreams come true. My father was a linotype center, and he said, I want to create a mini cultural museum. I want to be able to have people experience art and music firsthand. He said, we're going to have to make some changes because I don't know if I can make any money doing this. He said, I've saved up some, but I don't want to do it unless I know that I have your support. I said, oh, sure, Dad, sounds really cool, you know. And he created the Raven. It was a combination of an art gallery, and he had performers from all different aspects of music playing there. And they became, my brother Sanford and mine, they were our friends growing up. So we had this amazing exposure. We got to sit at the table with artists from Cranbrook, and they treated us like adults, and we had the most interesting conversations.
Now, the Raven Gallery became iconic, and it was in Southfield, Michigan originally.
It started in Detroit.
In Detroit.
At James Cousins and Northwestern at James Cousins, and then moved to Birmingham, and then to Southfield.
And let us know some of the stellar names that performed at the Raven Gallery.
Folk singers like Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee.
Which way does that blood red river run? From my back window straight to the rising sun.
And Josh White Sr. and Josh White Jr.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun.
Jimmy Buffett first performed at the Raven.
Unbeknownst to a lot of people, I started out many, many years ago playing in a little club called the Raven Gallery out in Southfield, and in club circuit days, and we worked our way up through those years of clubs and places like that to where we actually got to open for Jerry Jeff Walker at Pine Knob.
Searching for my lost shaker song. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know this could be my fault.
Stay tuned as we continue to talk to the awe-inspiring Brenda Naomi Rosenberg and other fascinating, wonderful people.
What's happening in entertainment with Greg Dunmore of PulseBeat.tv.
If you like what we're doing, please tell a friend, or if you want to see what we've done again, go to PulseBeatGlobal.com. That's PulseBeatGlobal.com. You can also go to our PulseBeat TV YouTube channel and you can revisit what we're doing. And once again, you can tell everybody that we're doing something that is so exciting that they wouldn't want to miss it. Remember PulseBeatGlobal.com or the YouTube channel PulseBeat TV. Thanks for telling the world about us.
What's happening in entertainment with Greg Dunmore of PulseBeat.tv.
There's no one more fascinating than Brenda Naomi Rosenberg. She's an artist, she's an activist, she is awe-inspiring. But certainly the Raven Gallery became a cultural institution and a dream come true for your dad. So the passion that your father had and that your mom had, that I would think is part of what allows you to do what you're doing today, no?
It was a magical place. So artists, Harold Neal, one of the first Black Power artists, no one dared show his work. They thought it was, oh my God. And my father thought it was just beautiful. So when you learn at a very young age to see the beauty in the differences, it changes everything. It changed everything as a child growing up and then now as an adult.
We are two women from radically different professions, backgrounds, cultures, ideologies, and beliefs who share a passion to bring opposing communities together.
We saw from our own conversations of the most contentious topics surrounding the Mideast conflict that tension is seldom eradicated. We chose to use the tension surrounding conflict as an opportunity to deepen our understanding and engage the other.
I know a little bit about Brenda Rosenberg, her work towards uniting people and her message between turning hate to hope, and don't know her on a personal level, never had the chance to meet her, but yeah, I mean, as someone who has dedicated their life work to equity, justice, advocacy, and deeply believing in any person's right to self-determination and freedom, and this idea to be able to be who they are and to feel safe in their own skin no matter what place they're in or what country they reside in. You know, I think her message around turning hate to hope is how do we identify the thing that brings us together as people and try to resist this urge to identify the differences that divide us. And you know, I think where it meshes, or where I deeply, you know, I find myself in this pro-Palestine movement, the thing I often find myself saying is that in order for you to honor people's humanity, you also have to honor their history and their plight. And what I think often goes missing when we talk about the plight of any Palestinian person is the historic context around the occupation and the way that they have been dehumanized as people. And in order for us to move towards this idea of hope and peace, is we have to honor the backstories that have made people who they are, and we have to be able to center the way that we want to move forward by honoring who they wish to be as well.
In this time of world crisis, what comes to mind when you think in terms of from hate to hope, especially relating it to what is going on in today's very trying times?
Yeah, you know, when I think about hate to hope, I think about it from the perspective that who are we giving the hope to, and who feels the most hopeless in that moment. And in order for us to step into that territory of hope and to come out of hate, is that we have to honor the backstories that come on the people that have experienced so much oppression, not just, with what's happening in the Israeli occupation of Palestine, but people say that nobody's free until Palestine is free. That has always been, Nelson Mandela said it, there's a number of people, and it's really because to liberate Palestinians is to create a ripple of liberatoriness for any people all across the world. And what I mean by that is until we're ready to reconcile and acknowledge the plight of our Palestinian people that has happened for the last 75 years, the dehumanization, the indiscriminate war crimes, the dispelling of their homeland, the abuse, the unimaginable things that no human should ever have to endure, until we're able to honor those backstories and to address those, and then to think about what is it that we can do as people to reconcile that and to give our Palestinian people hope that they too have the right to self-determination and freedom. It's really hard to get there. And so in short, I would say, we have to honor the backstories of people. We can't ignore history. And we have to be willing to recognize that just because somebody doesn't look like me or talk like me or think like me, that they're any less, deserving of not having that freedom and that right to self-determination and freedom.
Sam in the house.
The Coalition series specifically is focused on building bridges between Black and or Jewish Detroiters. We want to broaden that conversation. The Israel-Palestine conversation is something that we want to bring into the fold. We've been talking about it actively.
You guys have come together, and if you can just give us a little insight concerning the Coalition series and what was the motivation that brought you guys together distinctively to form the Coalition series.
We were introduced by a mutual friend, and it didn't take long for us to realize that through conversation, through spending time with one another, that there were a lot of points of intersection between us, from sports to music to just general interest. And so out of that really grew what became the Coalition series. I'll let Jay round it out a little bit.
I think I'll add to that just that I had my own experience through my relationship with Brandon, moving to the city of Detroit in 2012, and starting to really immerse myself in the Black community in Detroit, really started to experience for myself what developing deep, meaningful relationships with Black people in my life, how that helped decenter my own worldview and open my eyes to what, to expanding my own scope of empathy. So I think a big piece of kind of what we looked to do when we first got started was to bring folks together across cultural lines to try to, so to speak, scale that type of empathy expanding.
Oftentimes people hate other folks that they know absolutely nothing about, especially on an intimate level. They find themselves hating people they've never met in person, find themselves hating people they've never taken the opportunity to sit down and perhaps have dinner with them, or just even have the most basic conversation. So I think one of the things that undergirds hate is ignorance and lack of familiarity. With our work through the Coalition series, we have found that it is actually a viable and working model for sort of by bringing people together to eat and fellowship and to commune and discuss points of intersection and points of commonality. But I do think that when you do all of those things, it becomes a lot more difficult to hate. It becomes a lot more difficult to have a contentious relationship because, like myself and Jacob have really modeled just in our personal relationship, the more I get to know about Jacob, the more I get to know about his family, the more I get to know about his interests and what drives him, what he cares about. Despite our cultural differences, I think it becomes really difficult to see him as anything other than my brother. And I think it also becomes a lot more easy to see myself in him when we look at one another. When I look at him, I see a reflection of myself. I really think our focal point here through the Coalition series and personally is to place our energy and place the majority of our interest into combating these things that we know already exist, to combating, negative ideas, anti-Semitism, anti-Blackness, anti anything that that really decreases or does not fully recognize another's humanity.
And when we're not in community with one another, it creates the conditions right for misunderstanding. And when you don't know people that meet a given identity, there's a tendency in our, for humans to clump folks as a monolith and to make an assumption about a group of people as kind of one thing. We have this tendency to conflate groups with individuals. I think once you start to meet individuals that are part of a given group identity, it starts to naturally break down those kind of group stereotypes, because there's so much diversity within literally any group of people that exists. So we have a tendency to center ourselves and those in our immediate circle as being kind of the folks that we care the most about, just kind of naturally. Our sphere of empathy extends to our friends, maybe an extended network outside of our family, maybe to our community. But at some point, those ripples of empathy start to get weaker and weaker as it goes farther out. You just can't feel the same way about everyone because you can't keep it all in your heart. But to the degree that you can start to bring folks from different backgrounds into your inner circle of empathy, now all of a sudden you can't turn a blind eye to those issues, because those are issues that impact your friend, not this community over there. That it's very easy to kind of compartmentalize and think that's not my problem subconsciously.
The fact that we live in a social media age, everyone's voice is amplified, and I think with everyone's voice being amplified, and it's very much the same thing Jacob just said. If we're talking about a group, and our group, I'm about to be 40, I'm 39. So people in the 40-ish age range, I think they represent a very, very broad range of ideas on any issue, but particularly on issues of equality, hate, and just anything that's going on present. The hope comes from the fact that we still have air in our lungs and blood in our veins. Mm-hmm. If we're still here, myself, Jacob, yourself, I think that is at the baseline enough to maintain hope. That's enough for us to grab onto. That's enough for us to latch onto. And if with that breath in our lungs and blood in our veins, we can commit to just doing our own very little part to spreading hope, to spreading love, to acknowledging and supporting the humanity of others, I think that at the very least, we're taking a small step in the right direction.
PulseBeat.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love.
What's happening in entertainment with Greg Dunmore of PulseBeat.tv.
Wow, Greg Dunmore, PulseBeat, and I'm feeling the pulse of your wonderful spirit in this home. I mean, this is just awesome.
Thank you for signing in.
And one of your favorite words, peace.
Shalom, salam.
But there's another friend, and she is a remarkable woman in this community in metropolitan Detroit, and also a filmmaker, Dr. Sherry Rogers, and she has Spill the Honey Foundation. Would you say something about what Spill the Honey symbolizes in this discussion of love and peace?
Well, I'm thrilled that I am the first story on Sherry Rogers' website for Spill the Honey, the family story of how my parents spilled the honey, that I spilled the honey, and that my brother taught chess at Southeastern High School and took them to the nationals. So the kids from Southeastern High School went to won the National Chess Championship 3 years in a row. So Sherry has a wonderful project. Her film is amazing, Shared Legacies. So it tells the beautiful story of Martin Luther King and Rabbi Joshua Heschel.
Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, "The future of America will depend on how it responds to Dr. King."
It was the work that Dr. King had spoken for, fairness, equality, against anti-Semitism, and for freedom for Soviet Jews.
A large Jewish presence in the civil rights movement was evident almost from the beginning.
Well, Stan Levinson and Harry Wachtel were lawyers who were working with Dr. King. They were advisors, marchers, fundraisers. They were in the thick of things.
Many Jewish students worked all across the South. And I will never, ever forget 3 young men, Andy Goodman, Micah Scherner, and James Shaney.
How they walked arm in arm across the bridge and stood with each other and created that and showed by themselves you couldn't do much, but together they created miracles. You can't build a bridge without points of tension. Without tension, a bridge will collapse. Yes. So it's so important for us to address the tension. We need to look at it. We need to be able to share our deepest fears and our deepest feelings and be in relationship with each other. And that's what's missing, and that's what I'm currently working on, to create a space so people can see what it looks like with a group of friends, to demonstrate what it looks like to have that tough conversation, and the conversation that most people now are running away from, as long as one isn't filled with hate. If it's filled with hate, there is nothing that I can do. Nor can I walk into a room and think I can open up hearts and change minds. I don't do anything unless people sign a document that they're willing to create something new together that has not been done before, that will help more than just the people in the room. Because then I know I have a room full of change makers. I can't do anything by myself.
Thanks for watching this very special edition of PulseBeat with Greg Dunmore. Do know that love is always the answer.
Pulse of a new generation. PulseBeat.tv.